Okay,
Mute.
great. All right. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. My name is Brittany Branch, and I'm the Public Relations Manager for the Fairfax County Park Authority. This is the third in a series of meetings to review and evaluate the potential resident curatorship at the historic Mount Gilead property. I'm joined this morning by members of the Park Authority's resident curator evaluation team. We have Stephanie Langton, resident curator program manager, David Bukta, Heritage Conservation Branch Manager, Elizabeth Crowell, Archaeology and Collections Branch Manager, Michelle Meadows, Real Estate Services Branch Manager, and Joseph Imamura from the Fairfax County History Commission. We'd also like to thank members of our Park Authority team who are working behind the scenes today to facilitate our virtual meeting this morning. During this meeting of the evaluation team, staff will provide a summary of the January 23rd public meeting, an overview of the virtual evaluation team packets, including all public comments received, and a review of the scoring process. They will then score and discuss the proposal under consideration and provide a final recommendation in writing to the Director's Office and Park Authority Board. There will not be an opportunity for public comment or questions in this forum. With that introduction, I'm pleased to now turn the meeting over to Resident Curator Program Manager Stephanie Langton.
Thank you, Brittany. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Don, and to everyone in the Public Information Office who made this series of meetings possible, including managing the public comment period and making sure all information is available on our website. Hi, everyone. Again, I'd like to thank you as well for your time and commitment to this process. It's hard to believe that a month has passed since we started this, but it was a jam-packed month with our meetings and our 30-day public comment period. And so in the interest of time, I will dive into the agenda. I probably should have put review of the meeting packets first, since one of our items in there is a copy of the public meeting summary from January 23rd. Just a very brief overview. We heard a very engaging applicant presentation, and then some great discussion followed. Some of the comments raised during that time, one which was directed to program staff was, how does the program manage the preservation of the, historical integrity of the house, while also allowing it to be fitted with modern appliances and features. Another was, how did the applicants prioritize their 5-year work plan and the tasks outlined in each year? What tasks will the applicant be carrying out? What would be done by a third party? We saw that making the house safe and livable for their family and small children is priority one. And the applicants were able to outline, what kind of specialists they would be bringing in to carry out certain parts of the work plan. So this includes laundry and building enclosure, structural, solar panels, windows. We also touched on the status of the carriage house and the steps that the Park Authority is taking to move forward on its demolition, as well as the roof replacement, which will be undertaken by Park Authority as well. Is there any follow-up discussion from the evaluation team on that meeting at this point, on any of the items we just brought up that we should touch on at this time? Okay. So one other new document that we added to the virtual meeting packet is the compiled public comments that were submitted online through the public input platform that was available on the Mount Gilead website. And over the course of the 30 days, we received 2 comments, and we will have a good opportunity to open the floor for discussion on those during our scoring a little bit later in this meeting. So in terms of the scoring process, as you know, we make use of the program's established evaluation criteria as outlined in our program manual and on our scorecards. There isn't a threshold, a certain minimum score that an application needs to have met in order to be selected. It certainly means something more when there is more than one application, and the scores can be used to weigh, the quality of each application. But even with one application to consider, the score is a good indicator of whether the evaluation team thinks it's a strong application and is important for our record for our evaluation team of our consideration of each component of the application. So we value each criteria on the scorecard, and we'll have opportunity for a discussion on each section. We value what you have to say, and we want to see how each of the categories kind of weighs against the others for the overall quality of the proposed curatorship. So we will go, criteria by criteria. If there's discussion and we want to take the whole meeting to finalize our scores for that sections, we can do that and return to it at the end of the meeting. But if everyone is satisfied in their score for each section as we go, then I'll take the scores right then and there. And I'll put them into the matrix I have made so that by the end we have the final scores from everyone for each category, and we can total our scores, take an average for an official score. And the way the process works, following the meeting, I will draft a written recommendation notification to the director's office and Park Authority Board. And it's at that point that the work of the evaluation team will conclude. And depending on the outcome of the meeting, should the applicant be selected, the next step would be working closely with real estate services branch, Michelle, to provide the materials needed to start drafting the lease. So are there any questions at this stage of the meeting? No, okay. So I guess without further ado, we can start with the first section of the scorecard, which is proposed reuse. I like to open the floor to discussion, and I'm sort of happy to start with my scorecard. What I penciled in for proposed reuse was a 20 out of 20. The residential use and rehabilitation of the house is, consistent and compatible with the management plan for the park and the historic value of the property and the surrounding neighborhood. So my score there is 20 out of 20, excellent for each one. Would someone else like to share their card?
I'm also 20 out of 20, Stephanie.
Thank you, Liz.
I'm the same, Stephanie, 20 out of 20.
Twenty out of 20 here too.
Mm-hmm. And Jeff?
All right. Yeah, I have a different score. And just sort of, I guess, in my own review, I've got 18 out of 20.
Which was the criteria that
So I guess I looked through it with a different lens, and maybe a little more stringent lens. So I thought that it was still very strong and good for provides long-term preservation of the property. And I thought that compatible with FCPA resource management mission and the general management plan for the park. So, I think for me personally, I if I were to score them a little higher, would have taken somebody with sort of a professional preservation expertise. I think to really bring the property into a full long-term preservation. So that was kind of my perspective, but certainly amenable, to modifying my evaluation. But I think on the whole, on balance, I thought the proposed reuse was very strong. So,
Okay, thank you. Is there any other discussion on proposed reuse, or should we move to the next?
I'll just say that I feel like the application, even though it's our only one, does fit the mission of the Park Authority and the resident curator program as a rehabilitation program. So therefore, that's why I scored it high.
Mhm.
that's a fair assessment, David. I mean, you all are the gatekeepers of that. So after all, so I'm happy to modify my scores and provide them to Stephanie at conclusion.
Not necessarily needed. Okay, so next is scope and nature of public benefit, public access, specifically the quality of projects, programs, services that offer a benefit to the park and its users. I penciled in a 15 out of 15. I'll say why. In addition to possibly opening the house more than once a year, they put forth plans that were for virtual and programmatic events that would, reach a wide audience while serving to protect and promote the history of the house and the park. They also demonstrated a willingness and ability to partner with other organizations like Historic Centerville Society. And so that's why I scored a 15 out of 15. Would someone else like to share?
I scored that one a 12 out of 15, primarily because the proposed applicant outlined a lot of events that they might be interested in proposing to us, but we probably need to focus that a bit more. So I think it's good, but it doesn't quite reach excellent for me. But I don't have any concerns about this applicant and the public benefit component.
I'll jump in there, fill the airtime here. I too gave it 12, and am in agreement with Mr. Gupta's comments and align myself with them. So I think they offered some great ideas, a lot of aspirational thoughts behind it, and so it's just really a matter of execution and implementation. So they may not be able to hit all of them that they want to, and that's okay. I think their proposal provided a number of options, and so for them to select from, I think that would be satisfactory for sure. So yeah, I think it was a good sort of cross section of what they want to do, and I think that probably needs a little more detail fleshed out, but they won't know that until they kind of get into it. So and that's okay. That's part of the process. So, but I agree with Mr. Booth. 12.
And Stephanie, like you, I gave them a 15 out of 15. I think mainly during their presentation that we attended, they seemed amenable to doing what it was that we would like them to do. So I think, I don't think that they're so set in their ways that they would be resistant to anything, whether it was the Historic Centerville Society or the Park Authority or others. So, from that perspective, I gave them probably a higher evaluation than I might have given them if I hadn't seen their presentation.
And Michelle, did you want to provide any notes, or do we want to table this?
I'm sorry. I'm coughing.
Back to it.
I did 12 out of 15. They have a lot of good ideas, but like David said, nothing's set in stone. So good ideas.
Alrighty. All right, moving on to the rehabilitation plan, which includes feasibility of the plan's goals and schedule, compatibility with the treatment plan, the proposed lease term, consideration of environmentally sustainable building technology and practices, and accessibility issues. I scored an 18 out of 20 there. The consideration of the sustainability technology and some practices, certainly there. Consideration of accessibility issues, certainly there as well. And the proposed lease term is sort of perfectly consistent with the residential use of the house and the rehabilitation of the house. For feasibility of goals and schedules and compatibility with the treatment plan, I put good, and that's as an acknowledgement really that some of the proposals were outside of the scope of the work plan. Laundry comes to mind, and just the number of items that would require additional work to ensure that compatibility when the time comes. And so for me, it's an 18 out of 20. Would anyone else like to?
Yeah, I like Stephanie.
Oh, David, I think you're on mute.
Okay. Mine's actually a 16 out of 20, which is a bit lower than yours, Stephanie, but for the same reasons. You know, as you and I both know, as we have worked with our various curators, we've found that the proposed goals and the actuality of the work varies greatly. So I can't score them too harshly on that. But as you said, there are some things there that we don't necessarily consider to be the top of our list. So it may work out fine. I think that's where our strong educational component comes to play for us, is that we educate them as they move through the process. So yes, so a bit lower there, but still a very strong score.
And I also went with a 16 out of 20 on that one. One thing that I wanted to emphasize with some of these things are, you know, like the laundry, for instance, is more creature comforts for folks living there, but also they'll have to take into consideration if they are doing plumbing and things like that, that there'll be ground disturbance, and that will require archaeology, at least to assess whether or not there would be an impact. So again, you know, it's like David said, I think it's important. I mean, it's a process. It's educating the people who are involved. I mean, they certainly seem open and enthusiastic, so I don't see them objecting to things, but I do think that there's a learning curve there.
I'll pipe in. I agree with the comments before me by Mr. Gupta and Ms. Crow. I too gave them 16 out of 20 for many of the same reasons. And I think, as you mentioned, Stephanie, the proposed lease term was consistent with the use and rehabilitation plan. That was sort of the excellent point. But outside of that, I appreciate their honesty and forthrightness in their presentation. They are clear-eyed about this, and so I think the fact that they are flexible and adaptable will help them be successful. And their acknowledgement of sort of their skill set and what they can self-perform compared to things that they need to outsource or hire a third party, I think is good that they acknowledge that. So for me, the bar is rather high, right? So you compare for an excellent, it'd be somebody that came in with, true experience preservation skills, right? That could bring or help sort of bring the home into good repair, and with knowledge and experience in the Secretary of Interior standards. So, but like I said, I think they know they've done their homework, they've done their research, and I think they're positioned well to be successful. Again, mine 69.
I also scored 16 out of 20, and you guys are truly the experts. But so your comment, I just echo all your comments.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. All righty. Moving on to experience and qualifications. I think we all touched on this a little bit. I scored penciled in an 11 out of 15 for their ability to undertake and manage, implement, carry out the rehabilitation and reuse is demonstrated in their professional work overseeing these projects, and their also understanding of what they're capable of carrying out themselves and what they'll need to work with other contractors on. Not to mention the network of peers, in the industry who have already kind of acknowledged their support of this project. So where the two satisfactories came in for me were the specialized skill and historic preservation and the demonstrated examples. So it's an 11 for me.
Yeah, Stephanie and I did not talk about this beforehand, but yes, mine's an 11 as well. And specifically the specialized skills and historic preservation projects. That's just satisfactory for me. There were mentions of obviously working on historic buildings that we might be familiar with, but really just a painting project, and that doesn't really qualify for me as a historic preservation project. So, that's something, again, back to the educational component where we will work with them and have an understanding that there are certain parts of Mount Gilead that will be preserved and others that will be rehabilitated to accommodate their needs. And their examples of previous work, good. Qualifications, I think we can say good, leaning more towards satisfactory, but good. But that, again, an 11 for me.
I'll jump in. For me, it was a 9 out of 15, so it was satisfactory straight across the board. Again, as the architect on the panel here, I had a different lens through which I was looking and evaluating their experience and qualifications. So, as I've mentioned before, I think that they're positioned well to be successful, but again, they acknowledge that they're sort of coming into this with at least some knowledge of preservation work. And I think that's at least a point that should be highlighted. But for me, it was a 9 out of 15.
And I went with a nice round 10 out of 15. And again, my concerns were more in the experience, the types of experience and the understanding of what, really would be required. More than anything, I think is what struck me. Because the gentleman has a lot of experience with painting and other things of historic houses, but how complete, I think that he'll need to work very closely with you, Stephanie and David and Dr. Imanora, just to make sure that what he's doing is, meets the criterion that we need.
If I could add, thank you, Ms. Crow. For what it's worth, when they do see this recording, I think by the end of their lease, my score would probably change. So I think they will have real hands-on experience. I think they'll have lessons learned. There will be some successes. There will be some oops moments, and that's okay. Right? You can't learn and get that experience without having an opportunity like this. So rest assured to the applicant, I have faith that their score afterwards, if we were to do this afterward, would probably go up. But anyways, interested to hear what Ms. Meadows has to say.
And I would concur with what you say there. And also, I would imagine that David and Stephanie could attest that this is probably the case with everybody who's come in as a resident curator. So that, there is a lot of learning on the job, etc. that goes along with it.
It'd be great to see that information or lessons learned sort of cycle back for future resident curators. I think they just have a really unique lens, and I think that would be helpful. Ms. Meadows.
When I was scoring, I was thinking the same thing that Liz was mentioning. So I also scored a 10, satisfactory at the first two, experience and qualifications and specialized skills in historic preservation projects.
Okay, and then moving on to overall presentation and proposal, organization of the proposal. For me, that scored a 10 out of 10. It was thorough and organized and engaging. Not to mention, they were responsive through the whole process. If we have any questions or if we needed additional information or details, they were forthcoming with that and in a timely manner. So there's consistent delivery there throughout the process, and they're kind of no doubt committed and dedicated to this project and to doing it well. So 10 out of 10.
Yeah, same for me, 10 out of 10. That was probably one of our better proposals we've had. Very well organized, presented clearly. The excitement, enthusiasm was there, which we welcome. And yeah, I think overall this is an exciting situation for us.
And I would concur with Stephanie and David that I would also give them 10 out of 10. And I was very, it was very encouraging to see their enthusiasm, because this isn't just something that they're, taking on as a contractor would take on a project, but this is something they're, investing in. So, and I don't mean just financially, I mean, like, for want of a better description, spiritually. So, but that they seem to, the degree of enthusiasm, the wanting to do this and do it right, I think is very encouraging.
I also scored 10 out of 10. Their passion for this, and when she mentioned that they've spoken of nothing but this is exciting. So definitely 10.
I align myself with everyone's comments. 10 out of 10 for me as well. I appreciate Mr. Gupta's comment that, or maybe it was yours, Stephanie, about they were responsive to questions. Certainly their enthusiasm, as Mr. Gupta had mentioned, was palpable. Their overall organization of the presentation, the graphics, I thought were, again, I come to this through a different lens. But most of all, what I appreciated was the fact that they're in it together. They realize this is a journey together as a couple, as a family. They were, and I can't underscore this enough, that they were transparent, they were honest, and genuine. And so even the things that we've asked that they didn't have a response or an answer to, or they just didn't know, they said, we don't know, we'll figure that out. I appreciate that. Somebody who, compared to maybe somebody who might try to provide us an answer that they think we're looking for. So I think the word that I would say is it was authentic, and that's what struck me. And so that's what persuaded me to give them my full support and endorsement.
Thank you. Okay. And lastly is the public response. And so after looking at the comments that we received, I scored a 15 out of 20 for agree instead of strongly agree. Any reservation that we have heard, and there was only a few, was more general concern for wanting the house to be rehabilitated and maintained and handled with care, which is exactly the purpose of pursuing a curatorship there. And also there have been no sort of direct reservations with the specifics of this application. And so for that reason, I did 15 out of 20 agree.
I wasn't sure if we should rate each of the comments, but I'll go with you with 15, because the second comment seemed to me more like just a comment. But I strongly agree with the first, so 15 for me.
I also scored 15, and I thought the second public comment was still sort of this endorsement that they were surprised that somebody would, that would take this on, all right, this owner's effort, right, and so it was, in my view, still a support, sort of a disbelief that somebody would accept this mission, if you will, right, to try to adaptively reuse this property. So I too, it was 15 out of 10.
And I go with 15 as well.
15, you said, Liz?
15, yes.
I'm going to go with 20 on this one. We received 2 comments, and I really honestly considered both of them positive, because obviously everybody would like to have somebody in the house. And I feel like, that's the biggest goal of the project, is to not have this house be vacant. So given that we've been put through the ringer on previous properties with this, I feel like that this was one I'm going to strongly agree with the public response for. So I get
And we have our scores. So I have taken the average, there's 89, 89, 83, 80, and 86. And so 85.5 is the kind of official final score. So it sounds like we're all on the same page, that this would be a good opportunity, a good curatorship. Well, I'd like to thank you all again, really, for your time and commitment to this process and all the expertise and the perspectives you bring to the table. My next steps will be drafting the notification to the director's office and the Park Authority Board, and notifying the applicant. And then I'd say, you know, while this concludes the evaluation team's work in this process, you know, we'll continue to update our website as things progress. But unless there's anything more we'd like to discuss, we should be good to go.
Sounds good. I would just like to thank you, Stephanie, for your leadership in this process. Thank you very much. And also want to thank the applicant for their interest, and wish them the best of luck. And thank you for taking on this very important property for the county and for the community. So, and I was, again, delighted to see that they had broad community support. And so I'm certain that the neighborhood will also extend their support and help and assistance as needed. So
Very exciting.
Okay, well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. I'm just going to quickly share my screen in case anybody who is viewing this meeting recording would like to check out our website. So as Stephanie mentioned, all of our decisions moving forward and updates will be posted onto our website. So keep an eye on that. And we look forward to informing you of the next steps in this process. And thank you all for joining us today. Have a lovely
Thank
afternoon.
you, Brittany. Thank you all.